Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Village of Gurnee Planning and Zoning Board for this Wednesday, September 12th, 2018. Can we have roll call, please?
Bow.
Here.
Garrity.
Here.
McFarland.
Here.
Nordentoff.
Here.
Path.
Here.
Pasak. And Sula.
Present. We do have a quorum. If everyone would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's so nice not to have those noisy seats anymore.
And see, I was just thinking that it was nice because you could tell when to start the pledge. With the last seat that went up.
I was pretty good at judging that most of the time. All right. First item on the agenda is a public hearing. It's a variance request for a property located at 1135 Vineyard Drive. Clara, staff report?
Yep. Raymond and Linda Carrier are seeking a variance to allow a patio that extends approximately 20 feet into the 40-foot rear yard setback, approximately 10 feet more than allowed by code. The subject property is zoned R2 PUD and is located at 1135 Vineyard Drive. As with all variance petitions, the Planning and Zoning Board will make a recommendation that will be forwarded to the Village Board for their determination. The petitioner is in attendance to present his plans and answer any questions the board may have.
Great, thank you. As this is a public hearing, I request that anybody that intends to make comments, ask questions, please stand and be sworn in by the village attorney. Yeah.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Is the testimony you're about to give the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Yes. Okay. You can, did you go to the mic or?
I can give them the portable one.
Yeah.
We videotape and audio tape our meetings, and so you need to use the microphone.
Okay, no
Great.
problem.
So if you can just tell us your name for the record and anything you'd like to add.
Okay, my name's Ray Carrier, and sitting alongside of me is my wife, Linda. I don't really know how this starts, but I guess I'll just start. I'm here before you. Thank you for the opportunity to present my variance. I purchased the house in September, I think it was 2016, and always planned on doing some things. When I purchased the house, all the paperwork that I was given didn't show anything about a rear building line. It only showed front building lines, and it did show the 20-foot easement from the golf course, but that wasn't a problem to me at the time. Wasn't aware of this until actually I had a contractor, and he came to pull a permit and found out that we could only go 30 foot. So with that, I'll present my case or my facts. Okay, this is, I tried to copy the questions on this, the strip application. The terms of the ordinance would result in undue hardship. As you can see, there's not much room. The yellow line is what would be allowed based on current restrictions. And because I'm going to a grade level patio rather than a raised deck, I need steps to get out of the house, which takes away space. And then it doesn't show it well here, but several of you have been out to my house, have seen that I do have a lot going on with slope. And as you can see right here, the dirt level should be clear up, or the patio level should be clear up to that. So I need a lot of fill in order to make the yard right, but yet still having to maintain drainage. So that's why I propose a retaining wall for part of this as well. This picture here is just showing that the neighbor has a similar, they don't have the problem I have by being placed on the back of the yard, and they have a similar stone patio that can be seen from my side yard. Both my neighbors are not against this. They're actually for it. They think it'll be more pleasing than the white wooden thing that stuck up and was so high based on the way the land slopes away. We can go to the next slide. This is just another view showing that the bump out also comes into play. You know, it would be taken away from the allowed patio of the yellow lines, and then the steps also encroach. The green line is the approximate line that I propose to bring the patio to. Again, it'll be a retaining wall. Height will be around here. It has to be played with a bit to see what works out best for the steps coming down from the house and the other steps. Next slide. The house was built in 1997, 98, somewhere in there. It's set back the deepest of most of them around. As you can see here, it's 39. It's not even on the 40-foot rear line. It's 39, 39 an inch and a half on one side, 39, 2.5 on the other end, where the other houses all have lots. You can't see it here because it wasn't here anymore, but I believe another picture coming up, you'll see that the house was set back this far because of trees. There was a tree right here, and that's why the sidewalk kind of makes the funny bend around, at least for my investigation. And there was a couple other trees in the front yard that I think she had to have taken out way back when due to sewer issues, because there was some problems with sewer at some point in time from the records that I can find on the house. You can go on the next slide. Here's the trees that I mentioned that aren't there anymore. And there's one in the back corner that also makes the earth issue somewhat challenging. That's why it needs a retaining wall, because the house foundation sits up about 3 foot above it. So with the retaining walls, we're able to leave that tree have the earth around it instead of piling up by the bark. Again, I'm guessing that this is why the house was set back like that. You can also, next slide, this was just the title company, and you can go to the next slide, please. In here, there was no mention. It mentions the 25-foot building line and some other things, but there was never a mention, not that changes anything, but never a mention of the rear building line. Next slide. Actually, building line 30 feet from the west of the front and 25 feet from the east rear, which as I understand, are not valid based on my research, for this, but this was the covenant. It also states in here that the committees were going to, next one, you were right. You were fine. That they would be between an architectural designer should carefully consider natural characteristics, which is, I'm certain, is why the house was put so far back. So. Next slide. This is a proposed look at the patio. Again, I'd be off this is the 20-foot golf course easement. I will stay off of that. And I think the dimensions are 33 foot by, I can't quite remember if that's outside was 18 or. It'll be pleasing to the eye. It's neutral colors. It matches a retaining wall we have on the side for landscaping and keeping bushes and stuff happy. You can go to the next slide. Again, a different view taken from me standing down in part of the low point. There's a yellow line right there in the tree. That, if you carried this line out across, that's how much dirt you would, that's how high that foundation is. I need to keep it low here because everything drains through. Actually, that's the neighbor's yard again. Excuse me, that's not the yellow mark. Anyhow, the red line is the 20-foot easement. Green line is the proposed retaining wall. The strings are possibly approximate heights of where the retaining wall height top would be. You can go to the next slide. Again, this is a different view looking at it. This is looking down. Yeah, there's the tree. There's a yellow spot right there.
Is the orange line where you're prohibited to go past right now?
Pardon? The line that can you go back one slide? The red line is the 20-foot golf course. That's the 20-foot golf course easement. Technically, I'm already past the 40-foot Gurnee line up here with the house.
Which line? You've got a yellow and a red or orange?
The yellow line right here. Or no, I mean,
That's what you're wanting to do?
No, I want to do the green. I'm showing where the golf course is.
What I'm asking is, where are you limited to right now? I'm trying to gauge where you're limited
By-
to building to where you want to be. I get where you want to be.
Okay, limited by Gurnee's rules?
Yes.
Okay, that's the yellow line up here.
Okay. And you want to get to the green line.
I want to get to the green. Sorry for the confusion. Okay, next slide. This is just a different view. Again, you can see it needs a fair amount of earth. There is a retaining wall here. Here's the tree that I mentioned that you can't really deal with the slopes with dirt without putting a retaining wall here, otherwise I'll mess up that tree. And the whole backyard needs dirt, not much back by the fence, but most so in the parts up here. Next slide. There, I'm pointing out that dot there. Proposed height of patio is roughly there on the back of the house. It'll be the same material as the current retaining wall. Really nothing else to point out there. Pardon? Yeah, well, if you go, well, right here, well, there is a lot of drainage issues that we've been trying to fix. One of them, we had to have the golf course and Gurnee involved to drain. At some point in time, I believe they extended the tee box, and then they let the weeds and stuff grow up, and it stands to build up, and then the water doesn't run through as designed to run through to the back over here. I could use a little fill in my backyard before that, which will help me, but I have to be careful as to not hinder where the neighbor's yards drain across. So, go ahead, next slide. This is showing that it drains. Most of you that were out there could see that it drains, you know, across here, and the other side drains along it. Next slide. Again, drains from alongside this tee box. Actually, it holds water in here yet. Some it drains across here and there. And this spot here where the grass is kind of funky is because it does hold water there. So, next slide. Again, the retaining wall will allow us not in trying to make the property more usable and friendly with dirt to keep the dirt away from the tree so we don't impact the bark. Also shows the drainage here. Again, I sit back at the rear of the tee box. It's really not anything that's even looked at when the golfers are on the tee or cruising along the course. But next slide. That was it. I ran out of slides, so I mean, I'm open for questions, but
Okay. Any questions from members of the board?
I do.
Tim?
A couple. You mentioned the neighbors do not have a issue.
Yeah.
Do we have any sort of any sort of statement or anything from the neighbors letting us know? I don't see anyone here.
We don't have that, but we also don't have any complaints from anyone or anything like that.
Okay.
They get notice. They absolutely get notice and can respond.
And then,
Because, just to educate Tim on the process, because he hasn't seen a lot of these before, but anything within 500 feet gets...
Anything within
gets a
500
personal
feet,
mailing.
a sign gets placed on the property and a notice gets published in the newspaper.
and then typically, we also talked, or we talked during the presentation, the presenter, that it was not, he didn't see anything in his title, but typically setbacks are not going to be in a title, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So all homeowners are going to find that out when they purchase what the required setback is.
Unless there's an encroachment into the setback. It's not-
Right. Okay.
the front was part of the surveys and part of the rear wasn't.
Any other questions? Yes.
John, how much dirt are you intending? The wall around this, I have two questions. One, how many steps down do you see, not from the house, but from the back of the wall down to the land level? How many steps do you see?
No more than 3. The top step will probably be into the patio area a bit.
Right, be flat, right?
Yeah, so it'll be,
Two more down, so it'd probably drop 2 feet. All right, how much dirt are you intending to bring in? That's one of the things we didn't cover when I talked to you.
no more than I need, but I want to get the footing on the back side of the house. On the back side of the house, I want to get the footing more covered than what it is. So I want to bring that up and then slope it down.
Okay, thank you. How much dirt are you going to bring in beyond the patio to contour the landscape? That's where I'm coming from.
I don't see a lot down in the low spot. There's in that one end, I need a little bit, but I don't see a lot down in there. It's just going to be a blending, you know.
Okay.
You know, I'm not looking to, I do not want to block.
You're not trying to
or hinder
re-slope
water
the
or
land,
anything
that's
else.
what you're not trying to re-slope the drainage.
No, and that's why I think retaining wall on the one end will help that, because it allows me to keep that and then actually blend that better down at the bottom.
Okay. So this patio without this right now it's going to be 18 feet deep from the house out to the edge of the retaining wall, and without this it would be, what, 10?
8.5.
8.5. So it would be very narrow and quite wide.
Yes, it would be very narrow,
Okay,
and
thank
as you
you.
saw with the steps.
8.5 is allowed by right.
Yeah, okay, that's my questions. Thanks.
Okay. Tim, did you have a follow-up?
I had just additional question. Based on your presentation, I'm not an expert in engineering at all whatsoever. So I saw in your presentation, one of the things you talked about was drainage problems that you already have with the property, and it's flowing out towards the golf course. Do you have any sort of engineering report or any sort of, are you a contractor?
I am not, my son is an engineer, and way back when we first had the trouble, he pulled up the survey and
Okay.
showed that the drainage does flow from the area through that back section. And then the village of Gurnee came out with the golf course people, and they did look it over, and they did do some digging or cutting or whatever to improve that.
He doesn't have a problem, Tim, it's just that his property ends up being where it drains from both sides to his property, but they've engineered an exit for that around the golf course, and the village participated in that. Is that correct, Jeff?
I believe it was always laid out that way, based on, when I look at the original plot plans, it's got elevations as well, and the low elevation, it shows it going through that backside.
Any other questions, Tim?
No.
Okay. One of the things that I'm struggling with on this is, I think one of the things we need to consider is, what is the reason behind why these setbacks exist? And one of the primary reasons, to my knowledge, and Tracy, please correct me if I'm wrong, is to limit the amount of impervious surface on a lot to lessen the chances of there being drainage issues. Correct?
It's also,
Setbacks are also in order to get light and air into structures, so
Impervious ratio is
imper-
also part of it.
it's part of it, yeah.
Okay.
That apply more to commercial?
No.
Okay.
No. It's, the light aspect of it is very much attuned to residential because
Right.
it's trying to avoid the McMansion
Right.
phenomenon that some of the other suburbs have seen. Where I'm having a little bit of a struggle here is we already have knowledge that we do have drainage issues, and I noted when I walked the property on Monday, and the property was spongy. So, I mean, there's a lot of water retention already having a hard time being handled by the existing condition. So I just kind of throw that out for consideration.
Can I pose a part of that? I don't believe where I'm placing the retaining wall has anything to do other than my piece of backyard as far as drainage goes to anything else going on there.
It's not the location of the retaining wall, it's the amount of additional square footage that water won't be able to seep into the ground. See, part of the reason for the setbacks is to allow adequate area on the property for water to naturally percolate down into the soil. And if we increase the square footage of impervious surface by a great deal, we are then impeding the ability of the water to drain straight down to the ground where it's falling. It's going to run off and then run off from where it runs off into.
What Jim is saying is it's not an issue of what drainage, it's an issue that you're going to create more runoff because the water can't be absorbed, so it's got to go somewhere.
Understood. Just one thing there, it is a bit pervious because it's a paver. So, you know, between the crack, you know, and all that, I mean, water can soak through. It won't go through the stone, but it's not a concrete slab. It is pavers.
Okay.
So there's sand in between?
Yes.
That's what you're using? Okay. Yeah, that does work.
It actually,
Yes, sir.
it actually drains pretty well. The patios that I've seen that are done like that, because underneath it, it's actually gravel, so there's room for the water to soak through, and it does go down through the...
I actually have a driveway that's constructed that way, and we have big oaks. I was very concerned about that. And that was one of the issues, that by using sand for the joints, it allows, it takes a pretty heavy rain in our yard for rain to actually start to go to the street. Like last week, we had 3 inches in 4 hours. It couldn't absorb that, but normal rain, it will get absorbed. So if he puts in the right kind of pavers, actually, for what it's worth, you can get now porous. They make permeable pavers that will actually take the water through if you want to look into that. And that's for exactly your situation. But, sorry.
And just keep in mind, there is an impervious surface ratio for this lot too. It's 45%, and it's significantly under that, even with the addition, because of that substantial front setback.
It's just important to get all the facts out onto the record here.
Good question.
Okay. I need to go through the formality of opening the floor to the public. Is there anyone from the public? I know this is silly because you guys are the only ones here. Is there anyone from the public that intends to ask a question? Closing the floor to the public. All right, follow up round with the members of the board. Yeah, Mr. Nordentoff.
Yeah, I'm just going to make an additional comment to kind of dovetail on what you just left off with regarding the light and air part of it. I think the circumstances with it backing up to a golf course lends me to not be as concerned as say we're going to see it at a lower level than the level of the deck that was there originally. So the level of occupancy, so to speak, is going to be brought down a little bit because of the new location. Granted, it is a distance issue for me, not so much an elevation issue, come from the ground level up. But you know, if we had residential property immediately behind it with similar setback issues where we started to see close rear yards and close home locations directly behind it, I would be much more concerned about it than the open space of the golf course. And then to the left and to the right, those homeowners have an additional 20 feet at least. So I think the situation to me seems unusual relative to the immediate surroundings. So I don't have as much of a concern about that, and I do think there's a bit of a hardship in present, so.
Any?
David just took away my thunder.
He did, okay, all right.
I concur with David.
Okay.
The only thing, I have no issue with the request, but I think we should condition it that it's for the purposes of a patio. Because once we grant that variance into the rear set yard, they could come, you know, whether it's these folks or a subsequent owner, that travels with the property then. So somebody could come in and decide they want to put an addition on the house.
That's a good point, because I was going to ask the question, does this request travel with the project or the property?
Property.
Property, okay. So if somewhere down the road, someone else was going to do another patio, they wouldn't have to come through the process again?
Well, hell,
Correct.
they could
Correct.
They could put
Okay.
an addition.
But if we don't condition it, that the
I agree.
variance is for a patio, they could come in and say, well, we're going to build a two-story addition on
Yeah,
the
exactly.
house. And
Correct,
I would-
right.
so.
Any other questions or comments? Sure. Oh, yes.
Prepared to advance a motion.
Okay.
I move that we forward a favorable recommendation for the request for a variance 1135 Vineyard Drive for the variance to allow a brick paver patio that extends approximately 20 feet into the 40-foot rear yard setback as testified tonight.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second. So, and we're being very specific in our motion. It's for a patio, but it's for a paver patio. Okay. Is that what we want to do?
I can, if we just want to say patio only and not brick paver?
I mean, do we need to specify the materials?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't lock yourself.
Okay, I'll amend that and remove the brick paver component, and just say patio only.
Okay, so we have an amendment. Are you okay with the amendment, Mr. Path?
Yes.
So you
I'll
second?
second it.
Second as amended. Any other discussion on the motion? Okay, can we have roll call, please?
Bow,
Aye.
Garrity,
No.
McFarland,
Aye.
Nordentoff,
Aye.
Path,
Aye.
and Sula.
Aye. Motion carries 5-1. As Clara mentioned in the very beginning, we are a recommending body to the village board, and she'll let you know when the village board is gonna take this matter up on their agenda. So, okay? All right.
We know when that, just a rough timeframe, is that?
It'll be at least 3 weeks away, right? I mean,
Yeah, it would
Okay,
be,
so it's like October.
Yeah.
yeah.
'cause They meet on the first and third
Monday.
Mondays, and
At
it's too,
7.
it's too soon to get on the next one.
I'd have to
Yeah,
look
I
at a
think.
calendar. I have the planning and zoning board scheduled, but I
Because
don't have the
the next
village
one is
board
next
with me.
Monday.
October 1st.
I mean, but
Right.
the third.
I doubt that you would make,
Yeah,
right,
Yeah,
yeah,
even
You'll be
October 1st.
noticed.
okay.
absolutely.
Good luck,
All
guys.
right, our next scheduled meeting is October 3rd. Based on what you guys said last time, I'm assuming we're going to have a meeting?
Good luck.
We were going to, we may still, but likely not a public hearing any longer,
Okay, but some administrative things probably.
possibly.
Okay, all right. Opening the floor to public comment, closing the floor to public comment. Motion to adjourn? So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Nordentoff, second by Mr. Garrity. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.